Xtrao marriage. We've been talking about taking massive action, intentional massive action, in a series of videos on how to have an extraordinary marriage. And this week we're going to be transitioning a little bit into some very practical steps and some very practical tools and exercises that you can do. We kind of have a motif of the physical body and the relationship, and paralleling those two things. And our relationships are a lot like our physical bodies. And if we're not intentional in our health will suffer. Our bodies will weaken, and we could die an early death. But even if we don't die an early death, if we don't take care of our physical bodies, we're not healthy. Our lives could be not all that we want them to be.
Right.
We won't live an extraordinary life if we're not taking care of our physical health. When we're sick, it just isn't all that great. So in order to have a healthy body and a healthy life, we must be intentional and eat the right things, get the right exercise, and our diet and our physical life matter. So in our physical life, it may mean we need to go to the gym, or we go on walks, or we exercise. If you want an extraordinary, healthy life, you have to exercise.
And it has to be intentional.
And it has to be intentional.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, I think, and that's what makes it so difficult is that, we naturally left to ourselves, we don't eat the right things. We don't get the exercise that we need, just naturally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if we want a healthy body, we have to do things on purpose to have a healthy body. And that's not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
Getting up and going for a run at 6 o'clock in the morning isn't necessarily the most fun thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Although now I'm starting to really enjoy my morning runs. But if I want the outcome of that, the outcome is great. So I have to pay the price. I have to do the work to have the desired outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So the same is true in our relationships. If we're not intentional, just left to ourselves, we drift. If we're not intentionally doing something in our relationship to strengthen our relationship and have a healthy, strong relationship, we're just going to naturally drift, and our relationship will suffer. We'll become more like roommates than lovers and best friends. We won't have the depth of relationship if we don't do things on purpose.
Right.
And when we do that in our relationship suffers, and many relationships die in early death, kind of like in the physical body. I mean, you don't take care of yourself, you may not live as long, and there's relationships that die. Divorce happens at rates today that just shouldn't be, and most of the time it's because they haven't taken care of the health of the relationship. But even if you don't die an early death in your relationship, you won't live the relational life. You won't have the extraordinary relationship that you could have if you're not healthy. So it takes intentional work and effort to have a healthy, strong, growing, thriving relationship. Just like in the physical body, you gotta relationally eat right. Putting the right things into your relationship, you have to relationally eat right. And we actually have a whole section that we're going to be doing on relational nutrition, and that's a fun session. But you also have to get the right kind of fitness, relational fitness. So the relational exercise, and we've been talking about taking intentional massive action, and actions that will strengthen the health of your relationship. So now we want to look at our relationships and parallel them with our physical bodies. And so over the next several weeks, we're going to be talking about the different areas of our body. Today we're going to talk about our core, and I'll explain that here in a second. But your physical body, your core, then you have flexibility, and you have nutrition,
Cardio.
and cardio, strength training, all of these different areas. And those are the different areas we're going to cover over the next several weeks, giving some specific strategic ways and some exercises, practical exercises that you can do to strengthen your relationship. But today we want to talk about our core. Your core, physically, your core is a complex series of muscles that extends way beyond just your abs. Typically, we think of our core as our abs. We think of this little or big section of our body. You have a six-pack or a two-pack or a one-pack. But it's oftentimes all we think about when we think about our core is our abs.
Yeah.
But technically, your core is a complex series of muscles that includes virtually this entire trunk, everything except for your legs and your arms. And your core, this whole center section, is incorporated in virtually every movement the body makes. So when you stop and think about the importance of that, and often it's very neglected in physical fitness. A lot of people will work on their arms and they'll work on their legs and they'll have leg day and they'll have arm day, but the core is so critical to that. And I'm reminded when I was training for the London Marathon and I hurt my IT band. And my IT band is this band that goes from kind of the hip down the knee, and my knee was hurting, and a lot of runners have knee problems, and it was early in my training, and I thought, there goes the London Marathon. I'm done. I hurt my knee and my IT band, and because of my lack of knowledge in all of the mechanics, I thought I was going to miss the London Marathon because of that injury. What I discovered was that injury was directly related to my core. And so I did some research and I started reading. I went online, I was studying the IT band, and I was studying, and I discovered that my running posture affected my IT band and my knee and those types of things. And what I did was I started strengthening my core. I started strengthening not just my abs, but my low back and my glutes. And as I strengthened those, my posture as I was running changed. And as I changed my running posture, it fixed my IT band, and I ran the London Marathon. But I had to address my core. And I think with our relationships, the core of our relationship, and we'll talk a little bit about what that is, but the core of our relationship affects, like the core of our body, it affects all the different areas of our relationship. So in your relationship, your core is your connectedness. It's the depth of knowledge that you have one with another. It's your depth of friendship and intimacy. And in the core, in your connectedness and your relational depth, your intimate depth, and I'm not talking about sexual intimacy, I'm talking about the intimacy of knowing one another and being connected at deep levels. That connection is your core in your relationship, and it affects every other aspect of your relationship. So it affects your communication, your level of connectedness with each other, and your knowledge of one another, and the depth of that knowledge affects how you communicate.
Right.
It affects your conflict resolution. Your connectedness and your relational intimacy, it affects your sex life. And now everybody wants to work on their core. But your core affects that intimacy in your sex life. So that it's not just mechanical, it's deep and meaningful. Your core affects your relationship with extended family. Your level of connectedness affects how you relate to those around you. And so the core in your relationship can't be ignored. It's an area of your relationship that is absolutely critical to all aspects of your relationship. So one of the things we want to do today is we want to give you 3 exercises, 3 practical things you can do and work on in your relationship that'll strengthen your core. And as you strengthen your core and you take intentional, massive action in these areas, you will see your relationship grow and develop and move to a whole new level. You want to have an extraordinary relationship, you got to work on your core. So we're going to go through 3 exercises. Robin's going to start off with the first exercise, and we're going to walk through 3 exercises that will give some practical things that you can do, and we want to encourage you to take steps this week to work on these exercises. So what's the first exercise?
The first one is called Be Where Your Feet Are. It's about practicing presence, being where your feet are. And we say that in our house, be where your feet are. It's just a saying that helps remind us that we're not just talking about your feet being where the rest of your body is, your physical body, but your mind and your focus and your attention as well.
So being present.
Right. In the moment.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of talk about being in the moment.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Being present. Being where your feet are. We can all probably relate to a stereotypical husband who comes home from work with his phone in his hand and his head down looking at it, maybe answering, still on doing emails, still doing text messages, maybe he's even on a call. He comes into the house and his wife and kids are there, but there's really no engagement because he's still at work, even though his feet are at home. The rest of his mind and attention is not there yet. So if you want a strong core, you have to practice presence. You have to be where your feet are. Not to just pick on husbands, there are working wives who do the same thing, or wives who are stay-at-home moms could be very much distracted with social media. You know, one of the things that I have tried to practice in our relationship is that whenever you enter the room, if you're coming home, if you've been in a different room for a while or whatever, you come into the room that I'm in, I acknowledge your presence. I acknowledge the fact that, hey, you just came into the room that I'm in.
Yeah.
And that I think shows value to you.
Yes, it does.
And it shows that I'm present, I'm aware that you're there and you're present, and it's a very simple thing, but it's also very intentional.
Well, and I think it's even when I come home, a lot of times you're downstairs or Kelly's downstairs. Oftentimes Kelly will come up the stairs, hi Daddy, you know, and there's this move to connect.
Right.
I don't just come in and go to another room and I'm home for 30-40 minutes and you're downstairs for, you know, and then finally we actually enter the same room together. I come home and I come downstairs. I say hi, we greet, we hug, we kiss, we love, we're together.
Yeah.
There's a connectedness,
right.
And we're present. But I think what you're really, when you talk about engaging the mind in the same place that your body is.
Right.
In the same place that your body is.
And that can be difficult sometimes. So one of the tricks that we have that can help with that is another exercise. It's on our website. It's called Here's Your Sign, and we'll put a link to that in below in the notes. And this can really have a profound effect on your ability to be in the moment, to be present. So basically, what it is that if you work outside your home, or it doesn't have to be coming home from work, it can just be because you've been gone and now you're coming back to reunite with your family for whatever reason. So then you pick a sign, you pick something that's close to your home as you're driving home. It might be a stop sign, it might be a traffic light, it might be a grocery store that you drive past. You're picking something, and bye buddy. So you're picking a sign of some kind that's going to be a trigger for you. So the trigger is to tell your mind, okay, it's time to switch modes, change gears. I'm going to leave work at work, and I'm going to enter into my home, and I'm going to be present with my family. So that takes intention.
Yeah, it's an actual mind shift.
Yeah.
The value of that exercise is it's an intentional mind shift.
Right.
Because we're so consumed with, and I know everybody's a little different. I tend to be singularly focused. So if I am engaged in work, that's where my mind is. That's what I'm on, and I'm focused on that task. So it's easy to take that focus right into my house. If I want to be present, I have to intentionally shift my mind
Right.
and engage. Well, that stop sign helps me do that. I see that stop sign. It's the same stop sign every day before I get home. There's that stop sign. At that point, it's like, say to yourself, time to shift gears. Time to be present.
Yeah.
Pull into the driveway, put the phone away, walk in the house, greet the family.
Right. And it may be that you're in the middle of a call for work, or you have an email. So sit in your driveway and finish that business.
Right.
And then come into your house with your phone put away and your focus on your family.
And there's going to be more information on this, but sometimes that's difficult because we both now work from home.
Yeah.
It's like work and home and life. It's still a conscious decision, though.
Yeah.
Whether it's coming home from a job, or whether it is entering the house from outside, or whether it's entering a room from another room, it's still a conscious decision and a choice to be present.
Right.
To put myself there.
And acknowledge the other's presence.
Yeah.
We do. So another way that you can show your attention in the moment is to turn toward whoever you're in a conversation with.
Like this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it lessens the distractions. It focuses attention, and it helps your partner know that you're listening.
You're there.
Yeah. In fact, we have an article called Active Listening that really goes into more depth.
That's actually one of our favorite blogs on our website.
Yeah, goes into more detail about being present. Yeah. Another thing is to just be intentional about engaging in the moment. It takes intention to focus your mind. You know how easy it is to be distracted. I'm kind of the distraction queen in our house. There's lots of jokes about squirrel.
Right.
But so I have to be really intentional.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. So it really takes intention to focus your mind, to engage your mind in the moment. You can be in a conversation and thinking about shopping list, or thinking about, I got to fix dinner, what am I fixing for dinner? But that's not really being engaged and giving you the proper attention that I want to give you.
Right.
So it does take intention.
Well, I think with the activity, so if you're in the middle of an activity, even watching television, and the three of us are watching TV, but you're on your device watching TV, she's on her, and just being active together is practice putting everything else away. Let's sit together and let's actively engage in that activity together.
I'm not sure I can do that.
I don't know.
I'm going to try this week, though.
This week, maybe.
Yes. Let's watch a Christmas movie all together, and none of us will be on a device.
Okay, it's a deal. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
So that's practicing presence, being where your feet are. But we also want to encourage people to watch for the responsiveness of your spouse and your family, those that you're in relationship with. Mm-hmm. When you do this, because it's very uncommon. What we just described is not very common in relationships, which I believe is one of the reasons why relationship health suffers, is because we're not fully present.
Right.
And so it'd be interesting to know how people respond. Mm-hmm. So watch for the response when you do something that you don't normally do, like put your device away and turn toward and listen and look into their eyes, and all of a sudden she falls on the floor because you've never done that before. Pick her up, position her, and go, it's going to be okay. And engage in that. But watch for the response.
The thought, I'm sorry to interrupt, the thought just occurred to me that, if we're put this in a different context, let's say your boss calls you into his office. Would you sit there across the desk on your phone?
Nope, not if you want to keep your
or
job.
Would you give your boss the attention that he deserves, he or she deserves? Why in the world do we not do that with our loved ones?
Right.
For some reason, we show less value to the people we're closest to.
That's good. And
again, I think that's one of the main reasons why so many families are in pain or broken up.
So exercise number 1 is to be where your feet are. Be fully there. Be in the moment. Practice presence. And the second exercise that we want to give you, practical thing that you can do, is an exercise we call know and be known. The depth of your knowledge for each other is directly tied to the level of your connectedness and your intimacy. How much you know. Now, we're not talking surface knowledge. We're not talking favorite color, blue, purple, green. We're talking
although those are important.
Those are important. Absolutely. But I think what we're talking about is a depth of knowledge. Going deeper. And this is a tough one for couples because it requires a certain level of vulnerability. And that's oftentimes not easy. It's scary. And it keeps couples oftentimes living on the surface level conversation.
It's a lot easier to talk about schedules and kids and meals,
football and chit chat stuff, and
activities,
it's kind of the how's the weather idea. And the fear is usually fueled by hurt or disappointment at some level, where maybe you shared something with somebody very private, and a friend betrayed you, or they broke your confidence. And yet vulnerability is so important in a relationship, that we can't allow fear to keep us from a deeper knowledge of one another. So we have to be willing to open up so that we can grow our relationship at deeper levels. And so this exercise is really about knowing your partner at a deeper level. It's about going below the surface, so to speak, to have a knowledge of one another. And it's not like knowledge that you can use against. It's knowledge that deepens the relationship. And so the exercise really is about taking time somehow, some way each week. I want to encourage you. Maybe it's a walk and talk. So you just take a walk, maybe once a week, where you would go on a walk, and you would ask each other a question. And it could be a different question each week, and you select a question ahead of time, I select a question ahead of time. You go for a walk, and you ask some deeper level questions. Or maybe you have coffee, or maybe it's a morning a time when you have a cup of coffee together. But it's a little more intentional. Again, everything we're talking about is taking intentional, massive action. So it's a little more intentional, where you both know that, hey, this is our know and be known time. And ask some below the surface questions. So questions like, what's your dream? If you could do anything, what would you do, and what's keeping you from it? So another question would be like, what's your deepest fear in life? Well, that's a question that's not a surface level question, and it brings up, and it might be questions about childhood. It might be, who was your favorite teacher growing up? Why was that teacher so important to you? We have on our website, we have a blog, 20 Questions for Couples. A great resource. Download that, print that out. We should make that into a PDF for folks. But take those 20 questions, and it might be that just work your way through. Pick out some of your favorites. But the point of this exercise is to get to know each other at a deeper, intimate level. That knowledge of each other is a connectedness that is at your core that brings strength to the relationship.
Right.
So that's kind of the exercise too. And by the way, these exercises are all on our website, and we'll give you the address to those in the notes below and the links to those. But we wanted to highlight them here. Mm-hmm. So the third exercise is actually a weakness of ours. But I'm going to let you describe it real briefly, and then we're going to do another video on this exercise.
Yeah. The third exercise is to date your mate. Yeah. So for some reason, it seems like that something changes once you get married.
Yeah.
And you go from dating all the time to hardly ever dating. Yeah. So it's about intention. It's about focus. Yeah. It's a priority.
Well, and I think that's it. And we'll describe this in our next video. But I had a job when we were dating. You had a job when we were dating. Mm-hmm. We both have jobs now. What's changed?
Yeah.
It's not like time. We had 24 hours then, and we were busy people then. Mm-hmm. But now, why can't we find time?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have time to date. Well, you found time. You made time.
Right. We made time. Yeah. It was intentional.
Yeah.
So, like Daryl said, we're going to go into more depth. In the future, we'll make a video just about dating your spouse, dating your partner. But it does take intention. And so we wanted to just highlight it briefly here.
And I think one of the things that we want to make sure and highlight here is that we're not talking about going and staring at a screen.
Right. Both facing the same direction. We're talking about an interactive encounter.
Right.
So even your walk and talk could be considered a date.
Yeah.
Your coffee could be considered a date. When's the last time you went out just for dessert? When's the last time we went out just for dessert? I think it's been years.
Yeah, just for dessert.
Yeah.
Now, that does not mean we have not gone on a date. Mm-hmm. But we have not gone out just for dessert, but we ought to.
Yeah.
But I think the point again in all of these exercises, you'll notice the theme of these exercises is connectedness and a deep knowledge of one another. Building that intimacy, that relational intimacy, not the sexual intimacy, that comes out of this. But that deep intimacy of knowing each other and connecting. And friendship comes out of that. Before we close this video, I think when we really started practicing this and developing the core, our friendship grew.
Yeah.
And we like being around each other now more than ever. But the level of our friendship deepened. And now you're my best friend. And if I want to spend time with, I love spending time with you. I was in Phoenix this week and I wanted to be with you and spending that time together. I miss my friend kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that came out of these kinds of things. That came out of focusing on our core.
Yeah.
So these are 3 exercises to strengthen your core. These will all be on our website. Let us encourage you to be intentional this week. Date your mate. Learn something new and deeper about your partner. And practice being present. So that when you learn something new, you can actually hear and learn it.
Yeah.
So it's there, but sometimes if we're not present, we miss the depths of that. Yeah. We want you to learn and grow in your relationship. We love you. Now go love on purpose, live intentionally, and make it an Xtrao kind of day.
Thank you for joiing us today.
Check out our website with resources to help grow your relationship at xtraomarriage.com.
That's Xtrao marriage.com. like our Facebook page, and share our content with your friends on social media.
Make a decide and set your intention for an extraordinary marriage. Start today.